It's a new day, and a new graphics card has launched. Much was made about the Radeon RX 480 when it was first announced, as it promised VR-capable performance at $200 US or $250 for the 8GB version. Sure enough, when it launched, it nailed that price-to-performance sweet spot, killing it at 1080p and even 1440p in some games. Now, after releasing the uber-powerful GTX 1080 and 1070, NVIDIA is aiming to hit AMD back with the GTX 1060 at a price and performance point slightly above the RX 480. So, has NVIDIA negated any reason to buy this card? Let's discuss. Now, as you can see here, we do not have the reference version of the GTX 1060 here, but rather the MSI Gaming X version of the card. I went over the unique features of MSI's Gaming X custom cooler in this video about the GTX 1080 and 1070, so click here for a more in-depth overview of what this specific custom card brings to the table. In this video, we're just going to focus on performance mostly. Now, before we begin in earnest, a note. You may have heard about that whole MSI and Asus are sending overclocked graphics cards to reviewers debacle. In case you didn't catch it, MSI and Asus both released statements saying that the cards they send to reviewers are set to OC mode, which favors performance over power efficiency, while retail cards are set to game mode, which strikes more of a balance between the two. Now, I left this card on OC mode, since if you're thinking about getting it for gaming, which would be pretty much everyone, you'll probably want to turn it to OC mode anyways. So just keep in mind as we look through these benchmarks that this is a custom 1060, so you can expect a little bit of a performance bump in this card compared to the reference model. And if you buy this card, it comes with MSI's gaming app, so you can switch it between gaming mode and OC mode and power saver mode too, so just so you know. Now, all that said, let's look at the benchmarks. We tested in Ashes of the Singularity, GTA 5, Rise of the Tomb Raider, and The Witcher 3, as well as some synthetic benchmarks. Across the board in games, we saw around 10 to 20% increases over the 8GB RX 480 we tested as part of our review, which is more or less what everyone expected. We saw the RX 480 actually beat the 1060 in only one scenario, The Witcher 3 at 1080p. For synthetics, we tested in Unigine Valley and Heaven, as well as 3D Mark Extreme Ultra and the new DirectX 12 Time Spy benchmark. Again, across the board, we see the 1060 performing just slightly ahead of the 480. Interestingly, our system pulled a little less power from the wall with the 1060, about 40 watts, than it did with the RX 480 at around 60 watts, but the 1060 system used more under load at 170 watts to the 480's 160. Now that's the whole system, not just the card, so just so you know. This may be due to the MSI Gaming X having an 8-pin power connector rather than a 6-pin like the Founders Edition. Now, a big question gamers might be asking themselves is whether they should go for a GTX 970 or 980 instead, since those cards will no doubt be dropping in price, and who knows what the stock situation is going to be for the 1060. With the 1080 and the 1070, they were out of stock pretty quick. Unfortunately, here in the studio, we don't actually have a 980 on hand, but fortunately, our good friends at Hardware Canucks did some pretty extensive testing with it, and the 1060 actually beats the 980 in some scenarios. Not all of the scenarios, but man, this thing gets essentially GTX 980 performance, take her minus a little bit, for $250. Now, there's a couple things to note here before we draw big conclusions. The GTX 1060 is more expensive than the RX 480 at $249 MSRP, $299 if you want the Founders Edition. Of course, you're probably not going to find many custom 1060s at $249 exactly. This one, for example, is $279 US, and all the other ones are probably going to be around there somewhere for the extra cooler, and they overclock them a little bit. So if you are comfortable paying a bit more, you can get that extra cushion of performance over top of the RX 480 at 1080p and sometimes 1440p. It's also important to note that the 1060 has no SLI bridge, so it does not support multi-GPU setups. We're not sure why NVIDIA removed this, as the 960 did support SLI, except to maybe spare them the customer support work of trying to help users figure out all the problems with their SLI setups. It's strange to see NVIDIA restricting SLI in the way they've done with the 1080, 1070, and now the 1060, while at the same time DirectX 12 is becoming prevalent with its cool multi-GPU feature. I mean, no games use that other than Ashes of Singularity right now, but they could in the future. Anyways, so that's another plus for the RX 480, since it gives you the option to pop another card in your system to run Crossfire down the line. Whether that's important to you is up to you. But at the end of the day, what we have here is pretty straightforward. A slightly faster card at a slightly higher price point. If you're gaming at 1080p, the 4GB version of the 480 is still a great option at $199 US. But as you move up in resolution and gameplay requirements, it might be worth it to spend a little extra to make sure you're covered in the performance department. If you're interested in getting a GTX 1060 for yourself, you can click here, since MSI is a retailer, and we sell things. That's it for this video, guys. Thanks for watching. You can click here to watch more videos, follow the team on Twitter over here, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos like this from MSI. I'm gonna go now because I have other videos to work on. Not that this one wasn't important, it's just, it's over now. That's the video. It's done, so see you later.